Minutes ago, we just got dramatic new video from the Pentagon released by the military where you can see a Russian fighter jet as it was approaching the back of the American drone that has now been downed for about 4,000 to 5,000 feet in the Black Sea. In this video that has just been released moments ago, you can see where this Russian fighter jet is going up to this American drone. It is dumping fuel on it. That is what you're seeing in the video as it's approaching here. Then the jet goes away, it comes back, it dumps more fuel, and then it hits the American drone. It clipped the drone, one of the Russian fighter jets did. That is when you see the color bars there. Ultimately, of course, this is what led up to the downing of this drone we have been following all week since this happened. This interaction that happened on Tuesday, we are told lasted for over half an hour. Now, of course, that U.S. drone was forced to be downed in the Black Sea. General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, says it's about 4,000 to 5,000 feet beneath the water. The Russians are actively trying to retrieve it right now amid questions about what they could glean from it if they do. CNN's Natasha Bertrand is live at the Pentagon with more. Natasha, I mean, just watching this video is amazing in and of itself to see these two Russian fighter jets come up to this American drone, this Reaper drone, dump fuel on it, clip it, that has led to this dramatic escalation.
It is remarkable, Caitlin, and let's just remember what the Russians have been saying about this incident. The Russians have been insisting that that fighter jet, the Russian fighter jet, did not ever make contact with that drone. Well, now we can see that the video really does belie that explanation. We're seeing that the fighter jet actually comes up extremely close to the drone. You're watching it right there, starts releasing a lot of jet fuel, as U.S. officials had said it did. It hits that drone. That is when the camera footage goes out. And then when the camera footage reappears, you can see that the propeller of that drone is damaged. And that is exactly the sequence of events that U.S. officials had laid out, calling this behavior by the pilots extremely reckless and dangerous. I mean, this is just really remarkable. This is something that is so unusual to see, because usually when these fighter jets intercept these drones, they kind of just fly alongside them. And this fighter jet did do that. It flew beside this drone for about 30 to 40 minutes before actually speeding up right next to the drone, as you saw there, and starting to dump jet fuel on it. That is the moment when U.S. officials say they realized that something was really, really wrong here. As we have seen over the last couple days, U.S. officials have made really, really strict protests to the Russians about this incident, saying that it is completely unacceptable, that it could have endangered the pilots, of course, of that fighter jet, and of course that it violates the U.S.'s right to conduct these kinds of surveillance missions over the Black Sea and over international waters and over in international airspace. But again, this just really belies the Russian explanation for what happened here. Again, they had insisted that the Russian fighter jet did not hit that drone, but you can see pretty clearly right after that footage goes out, when the camera goes out, that the propeller is damaged. That really could have only been done by an impact from that plane, Caitlin.
Yeah, Natasha, thank you. And Don Poppy, I mean, as we're just watching this video, it's remarkable. And I want to remind people that yesterday we heard from the Pentagon, and they said that it was clear that the dumping of the fuel was intentional, but when it comes to the actual physical contact that they made, they weren't sure whether or not that was intentional. I mean, Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Donna Poppy, was being asked if he believed this was an act of war. He said he wasn't prepared to go there yet. But these are the kinds of questions they're facing over this video that you're seeing here.
And that's what John Kirby said yesterday. They had to be careful because they didn't want this war to escalate into something else. And if you look at this video, there are big questions about whether or not it was intentional, because this is only 40 seconds of something that lasted for 30 to 40 minutes. So unintentional, 30 to 40 minutes. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's stand by. We're going to check back in now with it in a moment.
Right, with experts on it. CNN military analyst, former member of the Joint Staff at the Pentagon, retired Colonel Cedric Leighton is here. Also, CNN Chief White House Correspondent Phil Mattingly. Thanks both very much for being here. Phil, let me just go to you first. You're reporting. You're usually joining us from the White House. This was a decision by the U.S. military to release the video.
And
they didn't have to.
But you see why.
Yes.
Right? And I think they knew that the Russians were going to have a different version of events. I think that was both expected and happened very quickly. And it was very clear over the course of the last 36, 48 hours that they both thought this video proved their point and were trying to work through the process of actually getting this out in the public. And I think if you watch this video, and obviously this just broke, we've all been watching it at the same time, it very much backs up what U.S. officials had been telling us over the course of the last several days. And I think underscores the very palpable concern you heard from U.S. officials that this is a different level of escalation. These intercepts in and of themselves are not rare. That is rare. What you're watching on camera right now is rare and not something that happens often. You've seen the response from the administration, whether it's Secretary of Defense Austin, General Milley, as Caitlin was saying, they've all reached out to their counterparts. The ambassador was taken to the State Department to raise the issues, severe objections. Right. What they are not trying to do is escalate things, but they do want to prove their point. And I think this is what they're doing with this video. Cedric
Layton, I want to bring you in. Does this back up what the U.S. has been saying, that this was, in fact, indeed intentional?
Well, yeah, I think so, Don. Good morning to you. Yeah, it looks like the way the Russian aircraft, the Su-27, is coming into the drone, it's very deliberately going after the drone. And when you see the video and you see it come through right here, you look at the, you look at the way it's appearing in the camera from the Reaper, from the MQ-9, it comes up really close. And then you see the propeller. It looks normal at this point in time, but when when you look at the propeller afterwards, you will see that bent blade, and that is very clearly a deliberate act. The way this aircraft is coming in to the drone, and you see that bent blade right there, clearly something happened. And it had to have been some kind of an impact. And I don't think, while the fuel spill on top of the aircraft, on top of the MQ-9 would have been significant, I don't think it would have caused that damage without there actually being metal-on-metal contact.
I'm so glad you pointed that out, because if we can pull that picture back up, you actually see that one of those, I'm sorry, I don't have the technical term, is like half the length of the one on the propeller on the opposite side. I think it's amazing, Cedric, that this lasted 30 to 40 minutes.
Yes. So when these things happen, when an intercept occurs, Poppy, what the aircraft comes up to the target that it's looking for, and it takes a while to identify the target. In this case, the Russian pilots would have said, "Okay, this is a drone." They would have probably identified it as an MQ-9. They would have then reported back to their ground controllers. The ground controllers would probably have directed them to go back to circle the drone, and they may have also directed them to do these more aggressive passes. And that will be key. If we can find out whether or not the ground controllers directed the pilots to make these aggressive passes, that then would have clearly indicated that this was a very deliberate action.
Phil, that drone now thousands of feet below sea level and in the Black Sea. On its way down, 2 U.S. officials told CNN that the operators remotely wiped the drone's sensitive software, which mitigates the risk of secret material falling into the enemy's hands before it crashed in the water. And obviously, they got the video as well. Yesterday, we had Kirby on, and he was saying, well, they weren't sure. They did everything to try to mitigate that. But now they're saying they did. So I guess if they got this video, they got the information as well and were able to wipe it. And they were able, this is part of when they utilize these drones, particularly for intelligence collection purposes, they are able to get pretty real-time feeds or access to what the information is in the moment.
They're watching this in real time?
They can. Wow. It depends on how things are structured. One of the issues that they were concerned about, besides the fact that this is a very expensive piece of military property, is just ensuring, look, we don't have naval assets in the Black Sea. We are not able to send, the U.S. is not able to send their people to try and pick this up. They thought from the early stages that this likely fell very, very deep and would have been very difficult to pick up no matter what. But as I think Oren Lieberman, our colleague, reported, they made sure that they could wipe all their systems. Kind of an internal self-destruct without the explosion, if you're trying to think through Mission Impossible type stuff, to ensure that if the Russians, which have made very clear they're trying to find this, trying to pick this up, if they do, what little is left of it will not be of any intelligence value. It's just you say Mission Impossible. I mean, people waking up to this morning, this looks like out of Top Gun, but it's real and it's between the United States and Russia.